Hey, fifth graders, I'm here to teach you about comparison. And one of the biggest things about comparison, when you hear that word, you're like, what is comparison? Well, I gave you a hint. As you can see on the board, we have the greater than, less than, and equal to sign. And I know you have been working with them for a long time, over several years. But sometimes when we hear the word comparison, we don't always remember greater than, less than, equal to. And as soon as we see the signs, you're like, oh, I know what comparison is. So we're going to look at comparison today. And the big thing is, when we're looking at this, the root word, or the base word, is basically compare. So we're comparing numbers. So as we go through, we're going to compare numbers. Now, what's different about it this year is I know you're working more with decimals, with the place value with decimals. So I'm going to show you an easy way that will help some of you all be able to figure out which decimal is really bigger. So I know some of you all will see it and you'll know the answer like that, but just bear with me through this video. It'll only be a few minutes. I would like you to take some notes on this just so that you have them, so that you can use this when you're actually working on the buzz system or on quizzes or whatever you're working on. All right? So the first thing I have here, I have two decimals. I have 0.9, and then this giant circle, that's just where we're going to put the greater than, less than, or equal to sign. So it's a problem. We're comparing 0.9 and 0.347, otherwise known as 9/10 and 347 thousandths. So the question is, which one is bigger? You might be looking at it and think you know. Some of you do know. I get it. But here's an easy way to figure it out. What you're going to do is you're going to stack the numbers on top of each other, and you're going to line up the decimal. So that way, I'll show you how you know which one's bigger. So I'm going to just move this 0.347 over underneath the 0.9. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up the decimal. When I say that, that just means put the decimal underneath the other decimal. And then I'm going to put 0.347. So I'm going to put my 0, 3, 4, 7. So now all we have to do is we're going to start with the biggest place value column until we find which one's bigger. So on this first one, this is the ones column, and they're both zeros, right? So those are equal. There's nothing that we can do. So we have to go to the next column that is smaller, to the right. So I have my decimals. They're both decimals. They're equal. So then I get into my tenths column. And in this tenths column, I see a 9 and I see a 3. Which one's bigger, 9 or 3? 9. So with this 9 being bigger than this 3, that means this 0.9 is bigger than 0.347. So I can go ahead and put in my greater than sign, because 0.9 is bigger than 0.347, because this 9 in the tenths column is bigger than the 3 in the tenths column. Now, I understand these other two numbers are bigger than these that don't exist, but those are smaller columns. Those are smaller place values. Tenths is the biggest one, so that makes it bigger. So let's look at the next example. Please write this down. We are going to compare 12 and 98 hundredths, 12.98, to 12 and 7/10, 12.7. So again, some of you all know the answer. Some of you think you know the answer. Some of you no clue which one's the answer. It doesn't matter where you fall on this spectrum. I can show you pretty easily which one's bigger. So again, first thing we're going to do, we're going to line up the decimal. So this time, since I'm closer, I'm going to move this 12.98 under this. So I'm going to line up my decimal, and I'm going to put my 12 exactly under that 12. And then over here, I'm going to write my 9 and then my 8. Now you always start with the biggest place value spot. This is our tens column. Well, in our tens column, I have a 1 and a 1. Those two are equal. Can't do it. I don't know which one's bigger. Here, we have a 2 and a 2. Again, equal. I have a decimal and a decimal. Those are equal. Now I'm in my tenths column. I have a 7 and a 9. Which one's bigger? The 9. Which means this has to be the bigger number. Because this has 9 tenths, this has 7 tenths, and everything in front of it is the same. So this is bigger. So, again, we put in our greater than sign because 12.98 is the same, or I'm sorry, is greater than 12.7. So the last thing that you might see, and this is the one that where they really try to trick you on when they're trying to get you, they give you 3 numbers. And in this particular problem, they want you to put them in order from greatest to least. Sometimes they'll ask you least to greatest, but this time it's greatest to least. The biggest number, the middle number, and then the smallest number. So we have 3 numbers, and some of you all can look at it and say, I know, this is easy, Mr. Drake. I get it. Some of us are like, I'm not sure. I think I know, but I'm not sure. So what we're going to do is we're going to line them up. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to line them under this one this time. Doesn't matter which one you line up. Just make sure you write them correctly. So this first one is 3.14. I'm going to line up my decimal, and I'm just going to write it again. 3.14. This one is 3.104. So I'm going to write it underneath it. My decimals are in a line, 104. So then I'm going to walk through this and see which one's the biggest. So I'm going to start with my ones column because that's the one that that's my first column. I have a 3, a 3, and a 3. Those are all equal. I can't do anything yet. So then I look at my decimal. Those are equal. But then I have I'm in the tenths. I have a 0, a 1, and a 1. Now I'm looking for the greatest to least. But this 0 tells me right now something very important. This doesn't have any tenths, and these both have 1. This means this one right here has to be the smallest or the least. That is the smallest number because it has 0 tenths and the other two have 1 tenth. It's the smallest number. We can go ahead and write it over here at the end because it is the smallest number. We are done with the smallest one. Now we just have to focus on the 2 that are left. Which one's bigger? So again, this one's done. We've already finished it. You could even mark it out if you wanted to. You're done with it. So now we're just comparing the 3.14 and the 3.104. We've already said that these are equal and the ones are equal. So now I'm in the hundredths column and I have a 4 and a 0. Which one's bigger? The 4. So this has to be the biggest number or the largest number. So when we write these in order from greatest to least, this 3.14 has to be first. Which means this 3.104 will be the second biggest because we already knew that the 3.014 was the smallest. And we usually, when we write these, we put commas in between them just to separate them. If you just put them on your piece of paper and have 1, 2, and 3 and have them separated, that's fine too. But that is how we can compare decimals. Biggest thing is line up your decimal, start with the biggest column, the one farthest on the left. Whenever you find one that has the biggest number in that column, it's the bigger one. That's how it works. If you have any questions, please hop on the Google Meet. I'll be glad to help you. Okay? We can work on some examples too. Thanks.